Hi everyone, again, I hope you're all doing okay. It's been a very heavy couple of weeks. I feel like I'm starting to really repeat myself with these videos, but yeah, we're just obviously in a very, very strange time, and I'm just not sure when I'm going to feel like I can kind of get back into the flow of making videos on kind of more interesting topics and so on. But I did want to kind of just check in with you as usual and say hi, and that I hope you're all doing okay, and just let you know how I'm doing and everything that's going on and so on. So some of you will have seen that I posted a kind of community post last week instead of posting a video, and I mentioned that the reason that I wasn't able to get a video up last week was because we actually, on top of everything else, we actually had a gorse fire near the back of our house last Sunday night, which was, as you can imagine, a pretty terrifying experience. And honestly, like, I'm still kind of recovering from that because I think on top of the stress and anxiety of everything that's going on, it was just this added extra just level of stress and anxiety that just kind of, it honestly just kind of threw me into a bit of a tailspin. So the last week and a bit, I've really not been doing so good in terms of my anxiety and so on. I'm usually really able to get a handle on my mental health these days. Normally speaking, I can kind of keep things under control. I know the symptoms when I feel them. I have a good idea of how to get a handle on them and what to do when I feel them and so on. But this has just been a whole unprecedented level of concern and worry, and it's been easy to kind of let myself get into tangled kind of loops and spirals of negative thinking. So yeah, today I just mostly want to talk a bit about what I've been doing to try and remain positive and to get that anxiety back under control, which, I don't know, maybe might be useful for somebody out there. And I'll just briefly tell you the story of what happened as well the night of the fire. So basically, I had also had another very stressful experience that day to do with my personal life, which I won't get into, which is another factor that has been making things kind of difficult right now. But basically, I had had this kind of sad and difficult conversation earlier on in the evening, and I was quite upset anyway. I went to bed and I wasn't able to sleep very well because my mind was kind of racing. And it kind of got to about 3:45 in the morning, and I had been kind of sleeping, like semi-sleeping, and I started to notice, I woke up a bit because I noticed that I was kind of coughing. I had this kind of irritation in my throat, and of course, like, immediately I was like, oh no, am I getting sick, and what's going on? And then I kind of woke up a little bit more, and I realised that there was a smell in the room, like a strange smell. And as I woke up even more, I realised that the smell was smoke, and I suddenly thought, oh, there's smoke coming into the room, there's something coming into the room, and it's creating this tickle in my throat. That's why I'm coughing. So my initial thought was that it might be the fire that we have. So we have a wood burning stove in our living room, and before we go to bed at night, my dad always puts in a piece of wood to kind of keep it burning for the first part of the night to keep the house warm. And so my initial thought was, oh, like, maybe the fire is still burning and the smoke is coming in from the chimney in through the vent in my window. And I kind of thought, it's strange, the fire's still burning this late, but that's probably what it is. So I got up and closed the vent and lay back down, tried to get back to sleep. And as I was lying there, I just realised how unusual it was to have a smell of smoke in my room, and I could still kind of smell it. And so I just thought, I need to check. I just need to go downstairs and check and see if everything's okay, if the stove's okay, if the oven's okay, and make sure nothing has gone wrong. So I started to go down the stairs, and I didn't even have to look out the window to see it. It just confronted me. As I went down the stairs, there's a skylight on the side of the roof of the ceiling, and I have a staircase, and I just filling my view out the window was this, like, fire, basically. And it was probably more dramatic looking through that window than it really was, because all I could see was the corner of our land where the fire had kind of reached just about the walls at the edge of our land. And it hadn't come any further yet, but it was just scarily close, basically, and close enough that I realised that there was smoke coming up around the house, and that was obviously what had come into the house and woke me up. So I immediately woke up my parents, and in my kind of immediate panic was like, do we need to call a fire brigade? Like, I wasn't even thinking straight enough that for the first couple of seconds I was like, is this bad enough to require a fire brigade? And then was like, yes, that's definitely what we need. So basically we had to call the fire brigade, and there was a very tense half hour when, because the wind was blowing in our direction, when honestly I wasn't really sure what might happen. In hindsight, I can see that our house is actually relatively safe. It was very unlikely that the fire was actually going to get across our garden, because there's really just grass, there's nothing for it to kind of catch. But it was still a very tense half hour until, as we were waiting for the fire brigade, until the wind actually turned and the fire started to die out. And I actually think it burned out as well, because it reached a wall on the side of our property and kind of didn't make it over that wall, basically. So obviously we had a very, very tense half hour, and then the next half hour after that we were waiting for the fire brigade, and we were still just kind of not really sure what we should do. We were told to stay indoors, obviously out of the smoke, but we were just getting more and more concerned about whether or not we should be getting into the cars and driving away, or, you know, what we should be doing. But, you know, the fire brigade turned up, they started to get it under control, it started to move away from the house as well, and so everything was basically fine. So yeah, I would say that was definitely one of the biggest frights I've ever had in my life. I'd say I was the most scared. Possibly the only time I've been that scared was when I was going to A&E one time with an allergic reaction that I wasn't sure if it was going to get really bad or not. The first time that I ever had an allergic reaction to food. I'd say I think the two times were pretty much equal. It's the only times that I didn't even call for an ambulance that time, so I think this was the only time I'd ever actually called for emergency services in my life, actually. And yeah, not an experience obviously that I would ever want to repeat. So I mean, you know, we're all fine, everything is fine, the house is fine, nothing bad happened to anybody that we know of. Obviously, like, you know, all of our neighbours are fine, all of their houses are fine. We were very, very lucky, actually, to be honest. But like I say, I do think that the house is actually less immune to fire than it felt like it might be in that moment when you can see the flames and you're kind of in that kind of moment of panic. But yeah, I mean, when we got up the next day, we could see what had happened. We could see that the fire had hit that wall and then kind of been pushed back a bit and kind of looped up around the house. So we were lucky that it wasn't too close to the house as well, because the smoke would have been a lot worse as well to be dealing with, and possibly would have irritated my lungs more and so on. So when we got up the next day, we could see really how extensive the fire was. It really was quite extensive. And what happens is that farmers around this area, or just in general in the country, I don't know how widespread this is as a habit, but they tend to set fire to some of their land. If it's just kind of bushes and gorse and stuff, they'll light it on fire to kind of clear it and to try and get grass to grow. It's a really stupid idea. It's actually the EU gives subsidies to farmers in this country, but they actually won't give them the money if they can see that they've done that to their land, because it's obviously dangerous and it's obviously very hard to keep a fire under control, especially if it's windy, which it does tend to be quite windy down here. So yeah, that was the beginning of this week, and honestly, it's been tough coming back from that. I seem to have some kind of cold and or maybe a mild reaction to the smoke, a kind of irritation. I've been to doctors and everything's fine. Like, I don't have anything seriously wrong with me, but obviously under the current circumstances, every kind of little cold or little anything that you feel, like, you're immediately panicking. I'm checking my temperature like multiple times a day sometimes, just to try and like keep myself calm and remind myself, like, you know, nothing seriously wrong here, everything's fine. But obviously that's been a lot to be handling. I've kind of taken a bit of a break now from the PhD on my GP's suggestion, to try and just bring my anxiety levels back down, to try and just recover and recuperate. Because, I mean, to be honest, whether or not you are kind of susceptible to anxiety or to any kind of mental health issues, obviously we're all under a lot of stress right now, and it's, as my doctor said, you know, this is a normal stress response. It's really normal to react with anxiety and with serious stress under these kind of circumstances, and you kind of have to be kind to yourself and also try and have good mental health hygiene right now in order to kind of try and and just keep yourself well, I suppose, mentally. So I'm really now trying to focus on that. I had a few bits of work that I had to get done the beginning of this week, but for the next week I'm going to be really just taking time off and just distracting myself with doing enjoyable things, spending time with my parents, going for walks, doing yoga, reading, watching Netflix, playing video games, doing whatever I just feel like needs to be done to kind of get I think just to shift my mindset. So yeah, it has been very hard over the past 7 days, I think, to keep up that positive mindset that I've been trying to hold on to, that I've been trying to find and to reach over the last while, because, you know, once you kind of fall into that feeling of anxiety and that kind of downward spiral of anxiety, it's really hard to pull yourself back out of that. But I think the big thing for me really was talking to someone that I trust. I discovered a GP here that was really wonderful. She was absolutely fantastic. It was basically like a counselling session, to be completely honest with you, and that was invaluable. So I would say that if any of you are struggling, finding someone that you can have a counselling session with, that you know is going to help you through what you're feeling and help talk you through it, and help give you ideas of how you can manage your stress and so on, is really invaluable. And also just, I think I was really focusing too much on the idea that I had to keep trying to push through and trying to work even when I was feeling terrible. Like, I was kind of taking any day that I felt okay, I would try and get as much done in my PhD as I could. I just wanted to keep pushing through because I had this idea that it was better to try and keep being productive, and it was better to try and keep living normal life as much as possible. But when my doctor said that, I realized, like, oh, she's right. You know, I've reached this point right now where I need a little bit of a boost to kind of get me back to feeling good again. I need a break from things that are going to put stress on me, that are going to add to that stress for a little while. And so, yeah, if you have the ability to be able to do that, to be able to take that break from things if you need it, I think it's really helpful. I'm already starting to feel much better. I definitely have some kind of head cold type thing going on, but it's nothing. I'm feeling much better all the time, basically, since I just made that decision, and especially since I finished doing the work that I needed to get finished this week. I'm really just starting to feel an awful lot better. But yeah, I mean, I think I sent out a newsletter, I think last week? Yeah, last week. And one of the points that I made in that is I'm seeing a lot of people kind of shaming other people for feeling bad and for sharing their negative thoughts and their sadness and their grief over what's going on if they don't have anything serious enough gone wrong in their lives to warrant that. Like, you know, saying that you shouldn't be complaining about just having to stay at home because people have it much worse than you. And that never sits right with me. I always think that, you know, we all have our own problems, and your problems in the moment can feel really bad, and just because they're not as bad as someone else's problems doesn't mean that they're not valid, and doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to share them and talk to people about them if that's what you need to do to process them. And so, yeah, I just really want to emphasize that, like, don't like feel bad about feeling bad. You know, you may be going through your own struggles, and yes, it might be helpful to remind yourself that in some ways you might be lucky. If you can hold on to that, that's probably a helpful feeling in some ways. But also, I think these feelings need to be processed and accepted, and we need to accept sometimes that, yeah, we are struggling, and that we maybe do need to be a little bit extra kind to ourselves, and we maybe do need a little bit of help if we can get it. But yeah, so that's been something that I've been kind of acknowledging more and more over the past couple of weeks, that, like, yeah, I am struggling, and that's okay. That's normal. It's normal to struggle a bit in times like this, and that I just need to remind myself what are the things that make me feel better. And I know that getting out for multiple walks a day will make me feel better. Meditating more will make me feel better. Especially guided meditations I've been finding to be much more helpful than just the usual silent meditation on the breath, because it's harder for my mind to just keep racing if I'm actually using a guided meditation, for example. I haven't been doing a lot of yoga, but I want to get back into yoga, following YouTube videos. But mostly I'm just trying to find a balance between making this experience as positive as it can be right now, making the most of it as much as I can, finding enjoyable things to do in the moment, and also reminding myself that this situation isn't going to last forever. It might last a while, but it's not going to last forever. Things will eventually change. This situation will eventually come to an end. And keeping that in mind, I think, is really important as well. And just trying to be really optimistic and really hopeful. And I know that I'm going to appreciate certain things in my life in a totally new way once all of this is over. I know that I'm going to appreciate the freedom that I normally have to just move about in the world and to, you know, take public transport, go into the city, go to pubs, go to restaurants, see my friends. I mean, the first thing I want to do, honestly, is just see my friends in person. That's going to be so exciting to me. There will be people that I haven't seen in months, and it's going to be so wonderful to be able to see them in person and hang out in person again. Even just small things like that, I'm already excited for. I don't even care so much about the bars and restaurants opening again and going back to normal life. I'll take whatever I can get, and I'm just really getting excited for that already. So yeah, and getting excited for going back to Dublin and so on. But like I say, I'm trying to balance that with a certain amount of optimism and positivity about the situation that I'm in, and the fact that I get to spend all this time with my parents, that I get to spend all this time down in Kerry in this beautiful area, and, you know, to take some time off work and spend more time outside, and we're going to have some nice weather this week and everything. So yeah, that's basically it. That's pretty much all I have to say at this time, I think. I hope that this may have been in any way helpful to you. Please let me know what kind of stuff you might want me to talk about. If any of you actually have any questions or anything that you might want me to make a video on over the next few weeks, do let me know, because I'm having a hard time coming up with topics to talk about or ideas for videos. But if any of you had a particular idea in mind, I'd be very happy to riff on that subject, or think about that topic and answer your question or anything like that. And yeah, just let me know what you might want to hear from me. And yeah, I think for now I'm going to leave it there. I think that's enough for now. I'm glad that I managed to sit down and actually make a video this week. I didn't want to get out of the habit completely, but I am feeling much better today. Like I said, I've just been out for a really long walk with my dad, which was really relaxing and really nice. And yeah, more of that to come, I think. And if you have the opportunity to do that kind of thing, even if you're not able to go out for long walks, like maybe you can just you know, hang out in your garden, or just do nice things at home and make your home as nice as you can, and just do whatever you can with the time and the space that you have and the people that you have around you. Or if you don't have anyone physically around you, you know, the people that you can digitally get in touch with, whatever you can. That's basically my aim for the next few weeks. So yeah, I hope you're all doing okay, and yeah, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.